Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this broadcast. I'm struggling a little bit today with the heat and the light, so there'll be a lot of background noise. I'm really sorry about that. What we're going to do today is look at some ways to use up your leftover yarn. Everybody who does any yarn crafts has leftover yarn. I do have my comments on today, so if you want to make a comment, that's fine. The yarn I'm going to use today is a chunky yarn. And I'm also going to use what is strictly not yarn, but I've got it left over anyway. It's a sort of parcel string that I bought for macramé, but it was just a little bit fine. And what I'm going to make are a beautiful dip-dyed tassel. This is quite a big one, but it doesn't have to be this size. You can make it as big or as little as you want. And a macramé wall hanging. Now, I don't know whether you can see all of that. This is made with 2 colours of wool. Yarn, I mean. I always call it wool, and I shouldn't, because strictly speaking, it's not wool. I think I had it the wrong way around there. So you can see the way it's tied at the top here, and then it's crossed over in the middle to create this nice V shape, and then it has a fringe, a bi-coloured fringe. You can make it in just one colour, but I really like this 2 colours, and I chose blue and white on this one because it's going to go in my spare bedroom. So we'll start with the hanging. Let me just gather my bits together. So you will need part of an embroidery hoop. I have loads of embroidery hoops. I don't know how I've managed to gather them all, but I don't do an awful lot of embroidery. And when I do, I tend to use one of the bigger ones. So this is the inside ring, but you could just as easily use the outside ring, the one that has the little screw top on, because that makes a good hanger. But we haven't. So the one I used for this one is slightly smaller than this one. But this time, that was double knitting wool. This time I'm going to use a heavier, chunkier wool. So I'll need a bigger one. I'm just going to lay that to one side, and I'll show you what else you need. Oh, sorry, I'm really, really hot today. I'm just going to say hi to Irene, who's joined us. I'm going to use this chunky yarn, which is a big ball, but it's more than it. It looks like a big ball because it's chunky. You don't have as much, but you can see it's quite a thick yarn. And I'm also going to use this one, which I particularly like. I bought this to make a hat scarf with, and I have this bit left over, which is a really bright turquoise, but it's quite different. It's got chunky bits, and you see that? It's got chunky bits. You're a bit further away today because I do need the extra length to show you how to tie the knot. So what you need is, if you're doing a bi-coloured one like this, you need 10 strands, 1.5 meters long of each. If you're doing just the one colour, you need 30. I don't know why it's twice as many, but you do. I haven't actually done the single coloured one myself. So you need to measure off your yarn into 1.5 meter length. Now I've got my I'm going to turn the camera down a little bit so you can see better. I've got my cutting board on here, and I know that for length of this is 1.5 meters. So basically measure, find the end, just measure one strand accurately. The one, don't pull it too much because this is quite a bouncy yarn. 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to cut that. And then what I'm going to do is just measure it along till I've got 10. 1, 2, this is the third one because you count the first one. 3, I'm going to just put that ball of wool on the floor because it will unwind easier. 4, 5, oops, 6. Doesn't have to be accurate to such a degree, as long as it's roughly the same length. And I've lost count now. I think that was 7, 8, 9. Just going to say hi to Sue and hi to Jackie. Thanks for joining us this morning. So you just if you've done it like me and just folded it over at the ends, just cut that so you're getting separate strands. We'll check if we've done enough. So how many have I got? I never get it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, 10. I've got it right. So there's 10 strands of my blue yarn. And here's one I prepared earlier. 10 strands of my white yarn. Okay. Just pop the scissors out of the way. Good morning, Carol. I'm just going to make myself a little bit more room because you do need quite a bit of room for this. So we take our hoop, and as you can see on this one, we've done half and half. The first knot we're going to use, the two very simple macrame knots. The first one is the lark's head knot, and that is the one that attaches the yarn to the hoop. I'm going to do mine upside down. I'm going to do them essentially along the bottom. It's so that you can see better what I'm doing with the knots. All right. So I'm going to do them one at a time. I'm going to just put that white yarn to one side and use the blue yarn. So you take your strand, fold it in half. So you've got a loop at one end. So with your lark's head knot, I'm struggling a bit because I'm having to do this upside down. It goes under the hoop like that, and then the two long ends, loose ends I should say, go through the loop, and you pull it. I've done that wrong. I always get it wrong when I'm doing it upside down. What you should have when you're finished is this. It's difficult to see it, I think. Whoops, let's get it in the camera range. But it's so that the straight strand is at the front. So essentially it looks like a bird's head. With a that's the theory anyway. So I'll show you that again, and I'll get it right this time. So that strand seems to be longer than the others. I don't know why. I maybe haven't cut that. Anyway, it'll be fine. We're going to trim it at the end. So you're going over and under with your loop, and then you're going to put the two longs loose ends through the loop, pull them through. Don't know why that's much longer. Pull them tight. Okay, so you can see them coming together. Now you're going to just have to bear with me. I was a little bit late starting this morning because I had to open curtains and prepare for the weather. So I'm going to have to do it all. I was hoping I'd get it half done so you wouldn't have to sit watching me tie knots. But then practice makes perfect. So again, you divide it in half, and the loopy end, if you like, goes over and under, and then the strands, the two loose strands, go through it, and you just pull it. Oops. So like that. So what we're ending up with is all our blues. That one's gone the wrong way. It should all be going the same way. Be careful you don't turn your hoop over halfway through, because that's what causes it to look different. You want to have all your little cross pieces, which you'll see once you've made the knot at the front. So done there. Right, I'm not going to do the whole lot simply because I know it's going to take me ages and that would be really boring for you. So I've got 3 on there. I'm going to put 3 of the white strands on as well. I may add some more on later when I've shown you the other knots. So again, you divide it in half, go over and under, then pass the 2 loose strands through. That's your lark's head knot. This is slightly thicker, but it doesn't really matter. So Marlene's joined us, who says she's a stash queen. If you're good, I might show you my stash. I'll pan the camera around later. But usually I'm ashamed to show people what a state my workroom is in, because I've had a busy weekend of workshops, so I've just got stuff piled all over. I haven't had a chance to put it away yet. So I'm carrying on with these lark's head knots, trying to keep them all going in the same direction. Now you can see, although one yarn is thicker than the other, I think it's probably going to work. I've got 3 of each on. So I'm going to start and show you the next stage, simply because I don't want you to watch me knotting yarn all the time. And the next knot is a slightly more complicated one. Right. So I'm going to turn this over, because what we want is no, we don't. We want the strands at the front. This is hard for me doing it upside down, as I said before. And I seem to have got some extra long strands here. So I'm just going to roughly cut them off, because if they're too long, it makes the next stage quite difficult. So I'm going to get a couple of clothes pegs. I should have mentioned clothes pegs. In macrame, I think clothes pegs are really, really useful. Right, what we are going to do now is we're going to move to one side the bulk of the strands and just leave the inner one in place. Okay. Then we're going to cross them over so that the dark colour is the one going on top. Now this is where your pegs come in handy, because you can just peg those ones out of the way. We're going to, if you can imagine, we've got all our strands on and they come to about there. We want to knot these outer strands at the outermost point of our, so similar point on the bottom as to where it ends on the top. So this is called a double half hitch knot. And I can't explain how you do it, I just have to show you. So you take your strand, and towards the inside of the where it's going to be, this way, you take it over, under, and over again, so that it's wound once round your hoop, and then you go under your hoop again, but you keep, I keep my thumb, I don't know whether you can see this, in there, so it forms a loop. Then your long loose end goes through that loop, and that anchors it. Now, you don't pull this taut until you've got it in the place you want it, because as you go on, you will have to move them slightly, and you want it to be fairly tight. You can loosen it and retighten it. This yarn is particularly stretchy, so. And then once you're happy with it, just pull it tight to anchor it. Now I'll show you that again with the other one, because you then repeat it with your other piece of yarn. So you go over, under towards the inside like that, and then over again. Then you put a finger in it, come under to the opposite side, keeping it as taut as you can, and then you pass the loose end through the loop that's over your finger and pull it, and it anchors. And you can see where they cross the top now. So the next one, you take the next in, and it goes from the in, and then it goes on the inner side of your first string. And then with your blue as well, take the next one. So essentially it's the second part of that pair where you've made the lark's head knot. Okay, push them together at the top. So they've crossed over with the blue on the top again. Just pull it tight, and you'll see it's starting to make your V shape. So this one wants to be on the inside of the one you've already knotted. So we're going to keep it a little bit away. This is why I said before, don't pull it too taut until you're ready. You're sure your knot's done. So we're going, that's the wrong way. You're going towards the centre of the hoop, under and over, pull that taut, and then put a finger in it and go under on the opposite side. And then pass that through over the top and through the loop, and then slide it up towards the other one and pull it taut. That one's got a little bit out of shape. Okay, so I'll repeat that on the other side. So where you're going on the, what was our first inside string, this one is now our first outside string. We're going to go under towards the centre and over the top, pull that taut, then with your finger in, make a loop and go under your hoop and then through the loop. I hope you can see this okay. Now before we pull it taut, we're going to slide that up there, pull that taut. Okay, so you can see the V starting to form. Again, we go back to our next white one. And that's going to go that way. And our blue one, next blue one, is going to go that way. I'm just going to, this is now, you might want to shift your pegs to your bottom strands because that's there. You need them out of the way while you're not in this top one. I'm going to stretch it and do my double half hitch. So that's under, make a loop under the opposite side and then through the loop, slide it up and pull it taut. And then we can put that one in the clip out of the way. So take our white one and we go under towards the centre, holding that taut with our finger as we make a loop, then come under, over and through the loop. And as we slide it up, we pull it taut. We may want to slide these in a little bit later, and you slide them in at the top. So they do tend to slide about, but once you've got them all woven in, they will hold. So we're doing another pair. Again, I'll move my clip onto this one. So that's the white one, and that's the blue one. Okay, well, not the blue one first. Stretch that taut, under towards the centre, and over again. Under the other side, but with our finger in it, so we're keeping a loop. And then we'll pull that through the loop and slide it up and pull it tight. And you can see we're getting our fringe forming as well. Are we getting this all right? I know it's a little complicated, but it is worth it. I must admit, for macrame, it is quite simple. If you've done any macrame, you'll realise that. But I'm getting quite into macrame now. I'm quite, anything that involves making a bit of string into something else is my thing at the moment. So that includes knitting, crochet, macrame. Thank you, Marlene. I've got to say I'm doing a good job. It is, as I say, it is quite complex. I think I might have switched a strand across there as well. So again, we're doing our blue one. And then we do a knot in our loop on the inside. As I say, the pegs come in really, really handy. Always have. I use pegs a lot to keep the strands together, so you're not getting a knot in a knot. Ha ha, that's my pun. My favourite macrame pun is don't get yourself in a knot. Right, so I'm not going to, as I said, I'm not going to do all of these. I've only put 5 strands on mine. And that is just because you don't want to see me tying knots all day. Eventually, once you get used to the the way you do it, you won't be as fussy about, you know, step by step. You'll just do it because you've got the hang of it. I've made a mistake there. That should have gone underneath. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is untie that and do it again, just because I want to show you you can untie it. So I need to just isolate that knot and undo it. Quite easy to undo, unless you pull them really, really tight, which, you know, makes it a bit more difficult. What that should have done was go underneath there, because we're alternating them, so we've still got our V shape. Should have gone underneath that one, actually. Underneath both of them. Is that right? Nope. I'll get there eventually. They should be alternating, so you get this attractive sort of. It eventually makes a straight line down. So I'll just retie that knot. So you don't worry, because even people who've done it 100 times still can make mistakes, particularly if you're talking and you kind of like your attentions. So the white one goes across first and the blue one goes second. I think what's confused me is I've been knotting the blue one first, because I think that one needs to be quite taut. So the last one. And I'll move to the one I made earlier and show you how it will look when it's done. And talk about a few other little things you can do to make it a bit different, to add a little bit more to it. So you can see that that is now forming our pattern. You probably need to move these around a little bit until you can see your lines coming, and you can see your tassel a bit at the bottom. Now I'm going to set that one to one side and move back to the finished one, just to show you the last few things. I will make that up because I quite like that wool. So what you end up with is this eventually. So you've got two sides. This, the way it's knotted, this is where it's better, I think, because that other turquoise yarn was a bit bobbly. I thought it would work, but it doesn't. Because this is double knitting, I've put 15 strands on this one as well. You need slightly more because the yarn is smaller and the hoop is smaller. You can see how it forms where you go under and over and under and over. When you've got it filled in, it forms this nice sort of straight line down the middle in a V shape. And the other side, it's going the other way. So it's up to you to decide which side you like best. Now, with your fringe, what you would do is, mine's actually got a little bit, you will get it as flat as you can and cut straight across the bottom with a pair of sharp scissors to give you a nice even fringe. What you can do after that, there's various things you can do. You can knot some strands. So for instance, take your first 4 and put just a simple knot, and then take your next 4 and try and get the knot in the same place, roughly. If we pull them together like that, and you can see if you did that all the way along, your fringe would look quite different. You could also put a bead on at that point if you've got a bead with a big enough hole. Trouble is that the holes need to be quite big with beads. To get 3-4 strands of wool through. So that's some ways you can make. You could also gather them together and put a binding knot on. I'm not sure how that would work. Or you could just knot each strand separately. There's lots of different things you could do to make particularly if you've done macrame before, you know there's various different ways you can make your fringes look slightly nicer. But I'm really pleased with that. I like the simplicity of it and the geometric shape. I'm just going to probably put another bit of yarn through here to make a little hanging loop so I can hang it on the wall. So that is your macrame wall hanger. I hope you enjoyed that. How are we doing for time? We're doing okay. Right, so we'll move on to the tassel. I'm just going to grab a quick drink because it's very warm in here today. I hope you're all keeping very hydrated and looking after yourself in this weather. I keep forgetting that my camera's at the front now. I don't want you to, to have all my clutter. Right, so this is my tassel. It's dip dyed, but it's dip dyed in a cheats way. I've used a marker pen. I have a whole bag full of Sharpies. That was the nice pink one. The dip dyed effect comes from wetting this before you put it on. This is a cotton string. It works better with cotton yarn just because cotton's slightly more absorbent. If you're using acrylic yarn, it's harder. Natural yarns are more absorbent. And I learned a little trick when I did this because I've always done my tassels and not quite like the top, but this one's got the nice sort of rounded top that you get on tassels, and I'll show you how you do that. So the first thing to decide is how long you want your tassel to be, and you cut some cardboard. This is Amazon packaging, reduce, reuse, recycle. So you can see that that is the length roughly of my tassel. It will hunch a bit when you tie it. So what you need to do is you start by tying a piece of string around the width of it. So sharp scissors, just tie it in a loose knot because you're going to undo it again later. So don't tie it in a tight knot that you can't get undone, or you can always cut it. This is going to be what ties it together at the top in the end. Not the bit around there, but the bit in there. Okay. And then you turn it the other way and you start to wind your string. So start with your string at the bottom because it's going to be loose, and that's where you're going to this is the top of your tassel, this is the bottom. Again, I'm doing it upside down so you can see. And you just wind it round and you keep winding until you've got enough string to make a nice fat tassel. If you want, if your tassel is smaller, if you're making the tassels only about this big, then you won't need to have as much string on because obviously shorter and fatter. A bit like me. I'm just going to drop that over the edge of the table. It makes winding a little bit easier. So I'm going to keep going. I think I wound mine about 50 times. But if you're keeping count, please don't, because it probably gets tangled up in the other wall. It probably won't be 50 times. I'm going to move that out the way. But it'll be near enough. It's just to suck it in. When it gets as fat as you want it to be. Now, what will you use your tassels for? Well, I'm going to use mine. I'm going to make another wall hanging. I'm going to do it with pom-poms and tassels. We've made pom-poms before on Virtual Village Hall. Everybody loves I love pom-poms. So I'm going to make a wall hanging that has strands with pom-poms on it and a tassel on the bottom. So have a feel, and remember that's going to be twice the thickness. That feels about right to me. This is my bottom end because my tie is there. So I'm going to cut that off there. Then this is where you undo your knot. I've still got nails from my wedding. Not my wedding, my son's wedding. So I'm good at undoing knots at the moment. And then take that up to the top and tie it in a knot. So one simple knot like that. And now a trick I learned from pom-pom making is if you do this, normally you would pass that through once. If you pass it through again, it holds much firmer and you get a firmer knot. So then we will, I'm showing you how to make tassels, you probably know. Cut through. My scissors aren't very sharp. Sharp scissors are a good tip. Cut through. Now these long ends will just become part of your tassel now. Now the trick that I learned, don't fold it like that. Just keep it open like that. Divide this one end, it doesn't matter which, in half roughly. Ooh, it's all coming out. And then you turn it like that. Can you see? This head then splays out and covers, not only covers your string, but also gives you that nice sort of end you get on a tassel that I've never had before. Right, so then I need one more piece of string. My string's gone on the floor now. Every time you tie with a piece of string, try and make it roughly twice the length of your tassel, because that will mean that it falls and joins in with your tassel string. So just put that under, decide how long you want your top bobbly bit to be, and then again you tie a knot, tie one knot, pull it taut, as taut as you can, and then your second knot you wind round twice, 1, 2, and then you pull that and that will stay tight. And then, as I said before, your long ends go down to your tassel and join your tassel. Cool. So what we're going to do next is trim the ends of my tassel. I'm going to do that before I dye it so that they're nice and straight. So you're trimming them to the length of your shortest strand. These scissors are not very sharp. I usually use my dressmaking scissors, but I haven't got them handy at the moment. Get rid of the fluff. So now we've got a nice tassel with a nearly straight edge. Give it a little bit more of a trim. Now comes the fun bit, the dyeing bit. So choose your colours. Now I've decided to make my wall hanging is going to be summer bright. So I'm using bright shades. That's nice bright 3s in the one I made earlier. What you need now is a little tub with some water in. This is the dip bit. I also have somewhere a towel. Well, actually, it's not. It's a face cloth. But you need a bit of a towel because you need to dry it. So you literally wet your string about halfway up, because we're not going to take the dye right to the top. Then squeeze the water out. Then that's one side. And then we're going to blot it on this face cloth. Just because you don't want it soaking wet. Okay, so that's that. So it's damp. It's damp enough for the liquid to go, for the dye to sink in. Right, so the next thing you need is some plastic. We've got plastic sheeting, because this is going to make a mess. You can see that's where I did the pink one. Now, I don't want to get pink dye in with my green dye, so I'm going to turn it over. Lay out my tassel a little bit. Now, I'm going to do this with this lime green now. Mine are Sharpies, which are indelible, but it doesn't have to be. It can be any kind of felt pen, gel pen. I've even got some liquid dyes that I use for batik, and they're quite good, but I only have the 3 colours in those. Then you just paint it on. It's easier if you do it with the side of the pen, just because it covers more, and you just keep painting it on and turning. Now this is something you can do with the kids. If you made a load of tassels, I'm thinking summer holidays are coming. If you made a load of tassels beforehand, children would love this. I mean, even older children could make the tassel. Younger ones maybe not, but they could easily do this painting bit. Just be careful that you're not getting it on your fingers too much and you're not getting it on your surfaces. It's okay on a plastic sheet, but so keep turning it and shaking it until you've got well, as much on as you want. It's entirely up to you. You might not want to have a solid colour. I'm preferring to get solid colour on mine. So get it and get it to the ends as much as you can. This does dry out your Sharpies a bit, that's the only thing. You can see some of the ends are starting to fray and fluff up. If you want to do that, you can. You can fluff them using a comb, metal comb, best. I use a dog comb. Nearly there with this. There's a lot more string than you think. And it does help fluff it out quite a bit as well. So I'm gonna stop there. I'm sticking to the plastic, so that's not good. Just got a bit of fluff developed on the end of my Sharpie, so I'll get rid of that. That to one side. So the next stage, you go back to your water and you dip it again. And at this point, some of your ink will come off onto your hands, but don't worry about it. And again, remember to use an old towel or an old face cloth because you will get slightly dyed. Just got to give that a bit of a blot. And there we go. All you do now is hang it up to dry. If you find you want your colour to be a bit more intense, do a little bit more. And you will find if you don't wet it again, it will then give you kind of a speckled effect. The reason we wet it is because it does help it wick up the colour wicks up the cotton a bit more. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that now. So there we go. This one just needs to dry now, and I just hung it. I just pegged it up on a hook to dry. I'm quite pleased with that. I think those two colours look really well together. I will do sort of yellows and oranges. As I said, mine's going to be all summer bright. And I'm also going to do pom-poms to match, small pom-poms, which I'm then going to string up, and I'm going to hang these on the bottom. So you would just simply thread another piece of cotton through your knot here. You maybe use a darning needle, and then you can hang them wherever you want. They'd be nice on a mobile in your children's room. I'm just going to turn the camera back up so you can see me. And I'm going to retrieve my other hanging that I did. Oops, which has gone on the floor. Sorry about this. So those are the two things we've made today. We've made the dip dyed tassel, which is used up leftover. That is actually string, but it works just as well with, as I say, with a natural based yarn, so wool or cotton. It can work very well with acrylics. And our lovely wall hanging. Now I quite like those knots, so I think I am going to carry on and knot all my strands like that in pairs of 4. So what I will do is when these are finished, I will take a photograph, put them up on the wall and take a photograph and let you see what they look like. This might be a bit longer because I've got pom-poms to make as well. I'm just going to say a few quick hellos. I'm going to say hello to Cheryl, who's joined us. And Marlene is going to make these with her granddaughter. That's a brilliant idea. Kids will. How old's your granddaughter? It's great. I love doing crafts with kids. I don't have any grandchildren myself yet. My son and his partner just got married last weekend. But I do have a friend who has a little girl who loves crafts, and she comes and does crafts with me. Right. So I hope you enjoy both of those. Lots of ideas with leftover yarn. If you pop along to my page, you'll find a few other ideas that I'm going to put up during the week. I'm going to put up something each day. I have lots of. Oh, I promised to show you my my stash, didn't I? If you bear with me, I'm going to turn this camera around. It's on a tripod, so it's a little difficult. Let me just right. So I don't know whether you can see that now, but that wall. Let me pop round and see if what I can see. That wall is my yarn. It's not all yarn. There's a few other bits and pieces in it, but that is my stash. Plus, please don't judge me. Plus, these wardrobes, they're full of stuff. Well, this half is full of fabric. The other half is full of clothes. But yes, so I have quite a bit of stuff. I'm not going to show you that side of the room because that side of the room is a complete nightmare. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour of my little craft room. And yeah, I think I'm on again this month. I haven't quite decided what I'm doing yet. If you have anything you want to see me do, pop it in the comments. I'm quite happy to show you anything you like, really. I mean, the only thing I'm not very good at is dressmaking. I never, ever got the hang of dressmaking. It's been lovely talking to you again. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you for everybody who's watched and made comments. I'll read them back and reply while I'm having my lunch today. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much and goodbye.